Modern jet fighters continue to grow ever more complicated and more fantastically expensive. But some of the most influential aircraft in history succeeded instead because they could do their job pretty well at a very reasonable cost. Such was the case of the agile A-4 Skyhawk, a small but heavy-lifting attack jet that would carve out a major place for itself in American history and also that of Israel and Argentina. In 1952, Douglas aviation engineer Ed Heinemann sought to create a replacement for the Navy's A-1 Skyraider attack planes. He proposed to replace one of the largest single-engine fighter bombers ever built with one of the smallest, lightest attack jets ever. At every turn, Heinemann engineered the Skyhawk to reduce weight and complexity, resulting in a combat jet that measured only 12 meters long and weighed only 5 tons empty. Even the delta wings on the Tinkertoy Jet were so small, little over 8 meters from one wingtip to wingtip hat, they did not need to fold for stowage inside the carrier. This feature, combined with short takeoff and landing performance, made the Skyhawk particularly useful when it entered service in 1956, as the Navy still operated numerous smaller conventionally powered carriers with limited deck space. Powered by a single J65 turbojet engine with two side-mounted air intakes, the Skyhawk proved agile but not especially fast, with a maximum speed of around 670 miles per hour below the speed of sound. The early model Skyhawks lacked a radar for detecting and engaging enemy fighters, but at short range could employ heat-seeking Sidewinder missiles and 220mm cannons for self-defense. But that was just as well. The Skyhawk's job was to pound enemy ground targets, and its 3 hardpoints could lug a hefty maximum bomb load of 8 to 10,000 pounds, which could include nuclear weapons. The Skyhawk was cheap, reliable and effective, so the Navy and Marines ordered hundreds of them, with production eventually totaling at 2,500 inches, a wide variety of models. In the early 1960s, every U.S. Navy carrier had at least 2 attack squadrons of Skyhawks. The first nuclear supercarrier had 4. The Skyhawk was swiftly improved in the A-4B variant with improved avionics and the capability for air-to-air refueling, not just with tanker aircraft, but even from one Skyhawk to another. Though the technique eventually fell out of favor as dedicated tankers became available, the tankers were retired at the turn of the century, and so fighter-to-fighter refueling was recently brought back in the Navy's Super Hornet fighters. The radar-equipped A-4C followed, giving the aircraft bad weather and night flying capability. On August 2, 1964, the destroyer USS Maddox fought a skirmish with North Vietnamese torpedo boats in the Gulf of Tonkin off Vietnam. 2 days later, shipboard radar seemed to detect a second attack. In fact, the second attack was later revealed to be a technical glitch with historic consequences, as President Johnson promptly ordered the first American airstrike of North Vietnam, targeting the boat bases and an oil depot in Vinh. Of course, the Navy dispatched its Skyhawks to do the job, and they dropped the first of what would be more than 7.6 million tons of U.S. bombs in Vietnam. These days, U.S. warplanes mostly attack their targets from high altitude using precision-guided weapons, to avoid having to swoop down within range of machine guns and shoulder-fired missiles. But guided air-to-ground weapons were in their infancy in the age of the Skyhawk. Instead, attack planes hit enemy targets by swooping down upon them and releasing old-fashioned gravity bombs above the target, or strafing the target with cannon fire. Getting that close necessarily put in and within reach of abundant and inexpensive automatic flak cannons, which could be quite effective. In the initial strikes at Vinh, flak shot down 2 A-4s, killing Lieutenant Richard Sadler, while Lieutenant Junior Grade Everett Alvarez Jr. managed to eject from his plane, and he became the first of hundreds of American pilots to endure years of captivity and torture in North Vietnam. Another participant in the initial raid, future Vice Admiral James Stockdale, who in 1992 ran for the vice presidency alongside Ross Perot, was shot down and captured a year later in 1965. The Skyhawk remained the workhorse of the Navy as Washington escalated its involvement in Vietnam, flying thousands of ground attack sorties and participating in key engagements such as the battles of Hue and Luck. New marks of the Skyhawk also showed up. The A-4E and F boasted 2 additional hardpoints for carrying weapons, more powerful J-52 engines, a Doppler navigation radar and a targeting computer. The F model in particular also introduced a pronounced hump behind the cockpit, packed full of avionics. The Skyhawk also began to use greater quantities of guided weapons, including AGM-12 Bullet missiles and AGM-45 Shrike anti-radar missiles for knocking out Hanoi's surface-to-air missile defenses. Though introduction of A-7 Corsairs gradually supplanted the A-4 complement on larger carriers, the Skyhawk's shorter takeoff and landing distance guaranteed its continued service on smaller carriers as well as in marine aviation units, which deployed the A-4s to forward air bases.